Hey y'all, how are you this lovely Friday evening? We have made it through another week, y'all. I'm excited. I'm done for the week. It has definitely been a long day for me, so I'm just gonna let y'all know, like I'm literally just coming in from urgent care. I've been sick for 2 days. Like it's trying to take me down, y'all. It's trying, but I ain't gonna let it. I ain't gonna let it. I had to come on 'cause I was like, I got to see my peeps. I got to see my shimmers. So I'm happy to see y'all. Hey, Mary, how are you this evening? So I'm just putting that out there in case my voice starts to try to disappear on me like it did a little earlier. It's okay. It do be acting funny. Yeah, I know, right, Mary? Like I'm trying. Girl is trying to take me down. It's trying to take me down, Chad. Hey, babe. So tonight, we're going to talk about we're going to cover a few things tonight. We're going to talk about how when people cross your boundaries, how to deal with that. We're going to talk about how when people consistently cross your boundaries, we're going to cover that. So, but before we get into us talking about people crossing our boundaries, I did want to touch a little bit on what's going on right now. No, I need to get back to taking my CMOS, Mary. I definitely need to get back to taking that. I definitely want to touch a little bit on what we got going on in Chicago. This past week has just really been crazy. For those of you all who don't live in Chicago, don't really know what's going on. This week we have had so many shootings here in Chicago. We have lost, we're losing our teenagers, these high school shootings. We've had quite a few high school shootings this week. There was a young man that was shot and killed down the street from my house. We've had 3 school shootings this week at different high schools. It has really gotten out of control. This violence that we have here in Chicago, when I tell you it takes a toll on you mentally as a parent, especially as a parent with not one but 2 high school kids. Like when I tell you I am on high alert with everything that's going on. And then we had someone that was sending out threats to the high schools on the south side of Chicago. Like, I mean, it's absolutely crazy to know that someone is threatening the safety of the children at our schools on the south side. Like, I mean, to the point where our high schools were on lockdown. They had to implement new procedures when it comes to letting the kids out of school and even when welcoming the kids into school. And then to know that people are actually, I mean, we had from one high school, we had 2 students shot. Another high school, we had 2 students shot this week. We had another high school, there was a shooting at that high school. Like it has really gotten out of control. It really has. And I just, we're still going to get into the boundaries, but I just had to touch on that a little bit because it has definitely been something that has been weighing on me mentally this week. Worrying about whether or not my daughter is safe going to school because her school was one of the schools that had shootings. 2 of her students were from her school. I'm not going to mention the name, but 2 of the students from her school were shot. And my prayers, my thoughts go out to that family. My prayers go out to, and thoughts go out to all of the families that were affected by this week. And I'm hoping that this weekend we can come and get back to some sense of normalcy here in our city where our kids can go back to school and feel safe going back to school. The faculty members, the staff members can feel safe going back to school. So that's my prayer and my thoughts and my wishes, and just sending out nothing but light, love, and positivity to those families and also to the schools. Hey, Bobby, how are you? Bobby says, hey, Shimmers. Hey, Marjorie, how are you? It is Bobby. Bobby says, that's scary. I'm so sorry to hear that. Praying for all the families affected by this. It definitely has been a crazy week to getting emails from schools in regards to the policy changes and having to implement new things because someone was sending a threat of literally. The crazy part is that they got somebody in custody now for questioning, but it was an adult. that was sending out threats to the schools of shooting up these schools on the South Side. Like, an adult was threatening to shoot up high schools on the South Side. Like, it's absolutely crazy. It's crazy. Hey, Vet, how are you? Like, that's absolutely crazy. And it's nerve-wracking as a parent to have to worry about now. Not only do you have to worry about your child going to school, but now you have to worry about whether or not it's safe for your child to leave the school. That's a bit much. That's nerve-wracking, especially when every day there's something new, or there's a new shooting every single day involving some sort of high school student. It's just, I'm really hopeful, and I'm really praying that we can get back to some sense of normalcy this week. I really am, and I'm hoping that my nerves can go back to normal. Because look, I've been sick for the past 2 days. It has been trying to take me down, child. Coming home from urgent care today, I'm feeling a little bit better, but meds are starting to wear off from urgent care. But nonetheless, I digress. I wanted to be here with my shimmers, so here we are. Thank you guys for tuning in this Friday. You all could be anywhere, but you're here with me. So I want to say how much I love you. I thank you and I appreciate you. Make sure you guys hit that like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel. To those of you who are new here, welcome. Welcome, my lovely shimmers. I thank you guys. So tonight we're going to get started on these boundaries, y'all. We're going to talk about when people cross your boundaries, and we're going to talk about when people consistently cross your boundaries. So we're going to talk about both, and then we're going to talk about, special circumstances when people cross your boundaries. So let's get into it, shall we? So when people cross your boundaries in all sorts of ways. For instance, they might keep pushing you to change your no into a yes to meet their needs. That's one. They might borrow something and never return it. That's two. They might invade your personal space, like touching your pregnant belly without permission. Hey, Neela, hey, boo. They might instruct your child on how to behave. That's definitely crossing the boundary, okay? Often people don't intentionally cross your boundaries. Since no one has the ability to read someone else's mind, it cannot always be assumed that a person will know that if they are triggering something within them. So, here's the thing. Like, say somebody might have an inappropriate comment. We happen to get those all the time, okay? For instance, while shopping, a saleswoman told Morrison's friend, "You're so lucky that you're more petite, because if you were taller, that shirt would not look good on you." How inappropriate was that? It said her friend is insecure about being petite, so she got upset. That's crossing the boundary. When people make comments, like, here's the thing. Just because you think it don't mean you need to say it. But, as this week has progressed, we've talked about the boundaries. We've talked about the 5 different types of boundaries. We've talked about setting boundaries and maintaining your boundaries. We've talked about setting boundaries with kindness, and we've talked about setting boundaries with difficult people. So those are some of the things we covered on Monday and Wednesday. So if you didn't catch them, feel free to check out them replays on Monday and Wednesday. So listen, but here's the key thing though, whether somebody breaks your bound or crosses your boundary intentionally or not intentionally, still got to treat it the same way. Still have to treat it the same way. Thank you, Bobby. I'm hoping I feel better too, okay? So, the first step, okay, make sure y'all grab your glasses, grab your notebooks, because we covering stuff tonight, okay? Make sure y'all have y'all absolutely happy TGI Friday, Bev. So make sure y'all got y'all notebooks. Make sure y'all got y'all glasses, because we covering some things tonight too. So listen, the first thing to try is handle it internally. What I mean by that is, it says when someone crosses your boundary, one option is to handle internally. You might find the positive in the situation. For instance, your mom asks you where your relationship is going. You feel like she's crossing the line with this personal question, but you appreciate her caring about you and wanting what's best for you. So when meaning handle it internally, It means first think whether or not it was intentional to hurt your feelings, or maybe it was something that was said with good intentions, and the person didn't realize by their good intentions, by asking a question or doing a simple gesture, that it was crossing your boundary. So the first thing is handle it internally. So that's the first thing. Secondly, restate your boundary. Because here's another option. You can confront the person. Absolutely. It depends on what their intent were. Because they may have misunderstood you when you gave the boundary, or maybe the boundary in which you gave was not necessarily clear cut and to the point. So if you're giving someone a boundary that's kind of vague, like, oh, I just don't like to be touched. Okay. It's kind of vague, but if you're telling someone, I don't like to be touched in my face, that's a clear cut boundary for someone to know, okay, they don't like their face touched. Cool. No problem. Be specific when you're giving your boundaries so that people understand where you stand and what exactly it is you mean. I'll give you an example. It says this is a clear cut. It says, these are some examples of clear cut boundaries. Maybe I wasn't clear. I'm not interested in hearing you complain about our mutual friend, John. I want to feel free to be friends with both of you. Now that's giving you a clear cut boundary to say, you're not going to talk about other people around me because I'm friends with them. And just because you're going through something with that person, don't mean you're going to badmouth them to me. That's a clear cut boundary for someone to understand, like, oh, okay, maybe I should keep my opinions to myself and my venting to myself. Clear cut. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to give no reasons why. Point blank, period. You don't want to hear it. Here's another one. I hear that you really need help. However, I'm not available to meet your request. Clear cut to the point. There's no beating around the bush. There's no explanation. I understand you need help. I just can't do it. And that's it. You don't have to explain why you can't help. And that's the problem. When we give boundaries and when we set boundaries, sometimes we feel like we need to explain why we have that boundary. You don't owe anyone an explanation for boundaries that you set for yourself. Those are not things in which you have to say to people like, okay, well, I don't like people touching my face because I have sensitive skin and I break out really bad and I just don't want to have to go through that. No, I don't like to be touched. I don't want to be touched in my face. Do not touch my face. There's no explanation given. There's no explanation needed. It is a boundary in which you have set for yourself for whatever reason. So don't feel that you need to explain your boundaries to people. Another example is, I've asked you the last few nights, but maybe I wasn't clear. If you have friends over past 10:30, you'll need to take the party downstairs so I can go to bed. I have to get up early in the morning for work. You've set a clear-cut boundary. Again, you said what you've needed to do. You've stated what you've needed. You're very clear about what you needed. And that was it. There was no discussion to be needed after that. The third thing is, state your boundary in a positive way. So it says this is state what you want instead of what you don't want. So it's the same thing as looking at the glass half full instead of half empty. So let me ask a question. How many times have you felt the need to tell someone something, but you had good intentions with what you were saying, but it kind of came off wrong? How many of you all have had that situation happen? I know I have. Like, I'll try to explain something, or I'll try to either give an opinion or make a statement, and it's come out wrong. Instead of it coming out with good intentions, it's come off kind of like as a negative, snarky comment, or it may have came out negatively. show of hands, I know I've done it. I know I've had that happen. And it was done with the best intentions, but it just did not come out that particular way. I know I have. So, in all transparency, it says, instead of don't talk to me like that, say, I want you to speak to me in a respectful and calm way. So you're saying the same thing, but yet you're saying it two different ways. So sometimes it's easier to, you catch more flies with honey than with shit. So sometimes it's all in how you say it, not what you say. Some people don't respond to negative connotations. Some people do, but most people don't. Just a thought. It says, another example is, if you have a problem with the quality of my work, please come directly to me to address the problem. That's giving someone a direct line to say, okay, if this is the issue, let's talk about it. And it's in a non-confrontational manner. Non-confrontational. So it says, in the above example of the overreacting boss, you might say, I hear what you're saying, but I would appreciate it if you would talk to me in a respectful tone. You're not being disrespectful. You're giving a clear cut in what you need versus what you want. No argument to be had, no explanation to be had. You're just simply stating, I need you to speak to me in a respectful manner. In a normal tone, monotone, no arguing, no raised voice, no nothing. Makes a difference. The next one is offer a way to move forward. Conflict resolution. Sometimes we need to learn how, what we call restorative justice. Sometimes we need to figure out a way in which to move forward in a positive direction when something negative has happened. Because sometimes we can say things that can damage a relationship. And then because we don't go back to try to repair that or figure out what it is that was said or done, especially in a relationship that we value or a relationship that we consider important to us, sometimes you have to just be humble enough to say, hey, if you're wrong, admit that you're wrong. And oh my goodness, sometimes as adults, I don't know why I'm sorry is the hardest word. I apologize, actually. It's the hardest words for us to say sometimes. And we don't even have to intentionally try to hurt someone. But it is just so hard for adults to say, I apologize. I never understand that. And because adults have a hard time saying, I apologize when they're wrong, we don't teach kids to say, I apologize. When you're wrong, it's okay to admit that you're wrong. We're not always right in every single situation. So sometimes saying, I apologize can go a long way, especially in a restorative justice type situation. Now, I'm not saying you got to be like, I'm sorry for everything you do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you know in a particular situation that sometimes you can both be wrong, because two wrongs don't make a right. Now, you know, some of us, I know at one point I had that, I'm going to get you, like Medusa, I'm going to get you before you get me. Like, sometimes we're so stuck on that we don't go through the process of looking at what it is that we've said or how we've said it or what we have done rather, that could have possibly offended someone else. Just a thought, but I apologize. And instead of saying I'm sorry, say I apologize. Because you're not sorry, you apologize because it was a mistake or you didn't mean to offend. So say I apologize instead of I'm sorry. And if you got to practice, I apologize in the mirror, practice, I apologize in the mirror. Because I know I had to practice the word no. So, I mean, we each have our crosses to bear now, Nobody's perfect. Let's say you found your girlfriend or your partner reading your text. According to Morrison, you assert yourself, explain your feelings, and offer her a way to move forward. An example would be when I found out that you read my text messages, it made me feel like you did not trust me. If you wanted to know what is happening in my life, you could have asked and I would have shown you. In order for us to have a successful relationship, we need to respect each other's privacy. That's one way of handling it. Or just don't go through their belongings. That's just my opinion. Because when you go through things, looking for stuff, you tend to find things when you're looking for when you're going through other people's belongings. And if you feel you need to go through their belongings, that's a whole nother topic. I'm just saying. That's a whole nother topic. If you feel you got to go through that person's things. Ugh. Hey, Nana says, hello, good to see you again. There are people that don't know how to say, I am sorry, or they may not. Could care less if words they spoke hurt you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Bev says, don't go looking if you're not willing to deal with what you find. Baby. Because when you go looking, you never know what you might find. That's why I said, baby, that's a whole nother topic on why you felt the need to look in the first place. Just saying. The next one is reconsider the relationship. I know that's right, Neela. Neela said, leave it alone. You better walk past it. Come on now. So the next one is reconsider the relationship. If you've been clear about your boundaries, the person still keeps crossing them, consider if you want to remain in a relationship with someone who disrespects your limits. Confronting someone when they've crossed your boundaries is not easy. And it's not, because some people are confrontational. Some people like a good confrontation. And then you have some people like me who are just not confrontational at all. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to yell at you. You're not going to yell at me. I'm just going to walk away. I'm done. Yep. I'm done. I'm just going to walk away. That's it. I'm done. Bev says, trust is a mother. Either you do or don't. If you don't, it's time to move on. Baby, when I tell you it is. Sometimes you have to reflect on if a person is consistent, if you're in a relationship and that person is consistently crossing or stepping on your boundaries and consistently disrespecting your line that you have set or that you have placed in the sand, you might want to reconsider or look at, why are you still there? Why are you still there? Is it because you ain't got no place else to go? Is it because you feel you can't get nobody else? Is it because you feel you don't deserve better? Like sometimes, it always goes back to looking at that mirror. Taking that long, hard look in the mirror. It always goes back to that. You have to reevaluate. You really do. Bell says, trust is my peace of mind. If you don't have it, what's the point? When you're in situations where people consistently cross your boundaries and you feel the need to continually confront them about crossing your boundaries, is it because you might be addicted to drama? Is it because that's what you thrive off of? Is it because that's what you need in your life? Or is it because this is what the pattern that you've made, a pattern that you're used to? This is your consistency. Your consistency is to be with someone that continues to disrespect you, your time, and your line that you have drawn. What is it? that is drawing you not only to this person, but what is drawing you and holding you to that relationship? What is it? What is it? Yes. Bev says it's 100%. Says it's like foreplay. Some people it is. Some people it is. It's a pattern that they've made. For some people it is. It's like they're not satisfied unless they're arguing with somebody. Their blood ain't pumping. It's not feisty enough unless they have that argument, unless they need that confrontation. So they know this person is going to continue to cross their boundaries. They know this person is going to continue to disrespect their time. But instead of walking away, they wait for it because they thrive on it. It excites them. That's the thing. So it says, plus, speaking up strengthens relationships in the long run. So by being authentic and expressing your boundaries compassionately, relationships often continue to grow deeper. And for relationships that end because of serial boundary breaking, you'll be better off in the long run too. See, I'm not the only one who thinks so. Bev says it's like a bad kid who seeks attention. The worse they are, the more attention they seek. Absolutely. Girl, that is way too much energy. Way too much energy. Completely. So the next question, but here's a question that I want you to ask yourself. Is the boundary or any of the boundaries in which you set for yourself, are they negotiable? That's a question I want you to ask yourself. Are the boundaries that you set, are they negotiable? Or are they set in stone? That's another question that you need to ask yourself. Because if your boundaries, it says some of our boundaries are more important than others, but which ones? Getting to know which boundaries you consider negotiable and non-negotiable, to be willing to compromise, can be a good thing, especially in a new relationship, for example, where both people are adjusting. However, this doesn't entail abandoning your needs to please them. So the question is, do you know which one of your boundaries are negotiable and non-negotiable? Because again, like the example stated, when you're in new relationships, sometimes compromise in the beginning can be good, but that does not necessarily mean that the boundaries in which you have set for yourself in regards to other people, that you need to completely abandon them or set them to the side for this person. That's not what that means. Bev says, mine are negotiable. I think we all have some boundaries that are negotiable. Most of them are not. Bev says, when I leave work, my 2 goes on do not disturb. Relationship wise, respect their space, their time. Absolutely. Here's the thing. Our boundaries vary based off the relationship that we have with that person. Your boundaries for your spouse may not be the boundaries that you have for your parents. The boundaries you have for your parents will not be the same boundaries in which you set for your children. The boundaries you set for your children will not be the same boundaries in which you set for your coworkers or that you set for your friends. So your boundaries will be set according to the relationship that you have with that person. Because just because they're your coworkers doesn't mean that they're your friends. So therefore, the boundaries go according to who the people are and who they are in your life to you. So when dealing with someone who doesn't respect your personal boundaries, accept that you can't control another person's behavior. So sometimes you have to detach yourself. Now, here comes a hard question. Are you willing to completely detach or let someone go out of your life that consistently crosses your boundaries? Can you let them go, regardless of who they are? That's a hard question that we have to ask ourselves sometimes. Bev says, exactly, my coworkers are not my friends. They are my work associates. There's a definite line. Absolutely. Here's another thing. Sometimes as adults, we don't know the difference between coworkers, friends. Sometimes we don't know the difference. The same way kids don't know the difference that all your classmates ain't your friends. All your coworkers are not your friends. So there's some hard questions that we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves. The first one is this relationship worth it? Is this relationship damaging to myself? What is it about this person or this relationship that I just can't seem to let go of? Can I allow myself to detach from this person, this situation, this place? What is it that will not allow me to do that? And asking yourself whether or not your boundaries are negotiable. Those are questions that you have to ask yourself because nobody else can answer those questions but you. Nobody. Bev says, I'm the blocking queen. I'll block you and don't care who you are. Girl, let me tell you something. You have to protect your peace at all times, regardless of who the person is. You have to protect your peace, regardless of who the person is. Sometimes we have to take time away from our kids, especially when they're grown. I'm just saying, sometimes we have to be like, look, I'm going to need some time. I'm going to need some space. Sometimes we have to detach from family members. You have to detach from friends. You look, when your kids get grown and they on their own, sometimes you have to put them on the block list too. I know some people are like, did you just say block your kids? I did. And did. Okay. And did. I said it. Sometimes you have to block your kids for peace of mind. I promise you. Because sometimes we allow our kids to be the ones that cross our boundaries. They're grown. I'm talking about the grown ones. Now, I'm not talking about the ones that still depend on you, the ones 18 and under that still depend on you for everything they need. I'm talking about them good and grown ones that can purchase their own cars, get their own apartments. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes we have to detach and take time for ourselves sometimes because our kids will cross those boundaries as adults if we allow them to. The same way our parents will cross them boundaries sometimes. You have to put your foot down. The same way coworkers, friends, cousins. I'm trying to tell you sometimes. Now, I'm not saying you got to block them forever, take your time away from them forever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is sometimes you just have to have space for yourself to reevaluate things. That's all I'm saying. Bev says, I've blocked my mom and she's been blocked for almost 2 years. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be completely transparent. At one point, I blocked my mom too. I blocked her from my phone. I blocked her from my social media because I just had to take time away and just be in that moment. I just had to be quiet in that moment and I had to reset myself. And in doing my reset, I had to get to a point where I had blocked my mom because we didn't always have the best relationship. So there was that point in time where I had to do what I had to do in order to protect my peace of mind, protect my peace in my heart. That was something that I had to do. Now, I'm not saying I did it forever because me and my mom, we so cool right now. It don't make no sense. My mama, my buddy, okay? My Starbucks buddy. So listen, whatever it is that you have to do. Bev says, had to block Haley a few times. Yes, Bree, I did. Girl, I understand. Haley qualifies under the grown kids too at this point. So I get having to block her too sometimes. I had to block Haley a time or two. Girl, I get it. I get it completely. When dealing with someone, and it's time to reevaluate whether or not it's time for you to disengage from the situation or the person. Don't participate in unproductive conversations. There's no point or need to engage in conversations in which all you're doing is arguing, name calling, your head hurting at the end of the conversation, you irritated, agitated, annoyed. There's no point in participating in those types of conversations. There's no point in it, especially if you've laid out your boundary and they're consistently crossing it. The next one is decline invitations that involve spending time with them. If you know, here's the thing that I have learned from about myself, and that I tell people as a disclaimer. I don't do phony. Okay. Even made a shirt. That's one of my shirts is I don't do phony. Please approach with caution, because I'm that person that if I don't deal with you, I don't deal with you. There's no point in us having face-to-face conversations because I'm not interested in anything you have to say. I'm not interested in anything about you. None whatsoever. So why accept invitations from people that you know irritate you, agitate you, and consistently cross your boundaries? Why would you accept those invitations? Like, makes no sense. Bev says, from a distance, when two people are arguing, you can't tell who the fool is. Absolutely. You can't. It just looked like two people hollering at each other. And for what? For what? No reason at all. The next one is don't react to their disrespectful behavior. Sometimes people do things to get reactions out of you. They want those reactions. So why give them the reaction that they're looking for? That's like people who throw rocks and they hide their hands. That's what that's all about. So it said, Bev says, oh, love you too, honey. Have a great weekend and a wonderful night. The next one is walk away. Just completely walk away altogether. No point in it. Hey, sis, how are you? It says, yes, they do, as it validates their nonsense. Some people just want attention. They just want attention. That's it. They just want attention. The next one is hang up the phone politely. Sometimes, or better yet, don't answer the phone. Don't answer the phone. Why are you answering the phone? You don't like them. You don't talk to them. Why are you answering the phone? Just why? Hey, Marcia, how are you? It absolutely. Why answer the phone? Why answer the phone? My kids. See, I tell you, the kids. Okay. So take care of yourself and be realistic about what you can and can't do in such situations. So again, you have to reevaluate whether or not you are able to detach from this person because they consistently cross your boundaries. You know they're going to consistently cross your boundaries. Why do it? Why engage in that behavior with them? Just why? The next one is, so now here's the next thing. So now we've talked about whether or not you're ready to detach from that person or not. Are you ready to completely cut off contact with this person? Or are you willing to limit contact with that person? Because sometimes detaching yourself from the person, you're not able to, like if it's a coworker, you can't completely detach because you still have to work with this person. But you can limit the contact that you have with this person. Meaning even at work, you don't have to interact with this person unless it's a direct contact project that you all are doing. It doesn't have to be done. When someone repeatedly violates your most important boundaries, it's time to ask yourself, just how long are you going to continue to accept such treatment? Quite often we accept for too long, people disrespecting us, living in the hope that the person will eventually change. Sadly, though, in hindsight, we tend to only look back and see the person had no intention of changing or respecting boundaries. You give people chance after chance after chance, And they continue, after each chance that you give people, they continue to disrespect you. They continue to walk all over and cross your boundaries. So if you know that they're doing that, why consistently give them chance after chance? What is it? Again, goes back to the question, what is it about this person that you just can't seem to let go of? What is it about this person that makes you keep giving them chance after chance? You're continually being disrespected. You're continually being annoyed and agitated. You continue having the same feelings and conversations. Nothing is changing. It's like beating your head against the wall and you're expecting a different outcome. Like you're beating your head against the wall and you expect that wall is going to turn into a pillow. No, you're just going to have a bloody forehead and you're going to have a massive headache. You can't keep doing the same things and expecting different outcomes because that's the definition of insanity. That's insanity. If someone is hurting you physically or emotionally, putting some distance between you and this person is necessary. Regardless of what others may think or say, you don't have to continue relationships with anyone who is making you not feel good about yourself. That involves emotional, physically, look, financially even. However, if anyone, you don't have to stay in situations in which people are making you feel, again, it goes back to self-love, self-worth, self-esteem. We've been talking about that all week when it comes to setting boundaries. Nana says if you don't set boundaries for your children before they become teens, they will set boundaries for you by 12 and out of control. Isn't that prevalent in teens today? Yes, it is. Very prevalent in teens today. How many teens do we see sitting on the couch with their parents on Dr. Phil telling us, she let me do whatever I want to do. And the parents like, oh my God, I just don't know what to do. They're just so out of control and I just can't fix it. I can't help myself. I don't know what to do. And these kids are like 15 and 16 telling their parents what they are and aren't going to do. But the parent is still providing a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on their table. And you don't know what to do because boundaries were not set in place. Again, when we talked about boundaries, there has to be some consistency in those boundaries in which you set for people to understand that those boundaries are there for a reason and the boundaries are not optional. Not having boundaries is detrimental to your mental health. I don't know how many times I've said it this week. Not setting them can be super detrimental to your mental health because it can affect you in all aspects. We went over the 5 types of boundaries. Family and friends should lift you and support you, not leave you depressed, anxious, angry, or confused. Remind yourself that you are in charge. No one can make you feel any type of way unless you allow them the power to make you feel that way. Nobody can make you angry unless you give them the power to make you angry. If one of your boundaries is you don't argue with people, then don't put yourself in situations where you have to argue. Walk away. When people get to raising their voice at you, you don't owe them no explanation to stand there and be like, well, I'm not finna argue with you, and I don't argue with people, and you're not finna sit here hollering at me. If you raise your voice at me, I'm going to leave. In that order. When they get to raising their voice, grab your bag, grab your keys, grab your purse, and walk out the door. Set your boundary, clear cut. That's it. Set it clear cut. There is no explanation needed when you set those boundaries and you are consistent with them. You're not going to call me out my name, or I will not participate in this conversation. The minute they call you out of your name, I'm done. Walk away. Walk away. You've already stated your boundary. You've made it clear, cut, and dry. Show them what the consequence is. They call you out your name, end the conversation. That's it. You don't have to compromise on boundaries that are important to you. Know which boundaries are negotiable and which ones are non-negotiable. If your boundary is you will not tolerate anyone putting their hands on you, be consistent with that. You have to be consistent because when you set boundaries and you allow certain people to cross those boundaries and other people see those people crossing their boundaries, that they're going to think that those boundaries are not there. You allow this person to talk to you crazy, but everybody else can't talk to you crazy. And then when they see this person talking to you crazy, the next time they see you and they say something crazy to you, well, you let so and so talk to you like that? Be consistent in your boundaries. How you approach your personal boundaries is really up to you. Difficult people want you to believe that you're just overreacting or being too sensitive. And that's okay. Let them think that. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them or allow them to violate your boundaries. When you have controlling or toxic people in your life, it's a good idea to examine 3 areas: time, space, and energy, and identify which area is most valuable to you and adjust accordingly. Asking yourself questions is powerful. Here are 3 you can start asking yourself. I hope y'all got y'all pens and pads. Y'all got y'all notebooks. The first one: what time limit do you want to set? What works best for you? For example, how much time are you willing to spend with them, whether that be in person or over the telephone? Mm, okay, had to adjust. I'm back. Hi, Lenore. Okay, so y'all write that down? That's the first question you got to ask yourself. Well, add it to the list. Add it to the list of questions you got to ask. I'll repeat it. What time limit do you want to set? What works best for you? Meaning, for example, how much time are you willing to spend with them, whether that be in person or over the telephone? The second, how much of your space are you willing to share? For example, maybe you have a friend or a family member who always turns up unexpectedly or overstays their welcome. How much of your space? The third question, how much mental and emotional energy are you willing to invest? For example, a friend is going through a difficult time with their partner and constantly in touch and offloading onto you. What boundary are you willing to set? I'll give you an example. If you have a friend that every other week she's breaking up with the same person or he's breaking up with the same person every single week, they call it, oh my God, I can't stand them. They get on my nerves. Oh, they just irritate me. Like, oh, I can't do this no more. Like, you know what? I'm done. I don't even want to see them no more. I'm done talking to them. Like, they just work my last nerve and I just can't take it no more. I don't want to be here. I can't stand them. And this is a conversation they have every week when they call you. And then 3 days after that conversation is, I just love them so much. Like, they're just my everything. Like, I don't know what I would do without them. Like, oh my God, I just love them so much. They're my world. And I just want to spend the rest of my life with this person. And oh my God, they're just my everything. How much of your time, how much of your mental and your emotional energy are you going to give to that conversation? At some point, you're going to have to set a boundary to say, hey, don't call me with your garbage. If you're going to continue on this cycle and you are going to continue on this hamster wheel of this relationship, don't call me with your garbage. I don't want to be on the emotional roller coaster with you. Allow them to be on that emotional roller coaster by themselves without wasting your mental and emotional time. Like, for what? They get you all hyped and you irritated and you mad too. And you like, oh, I can't stand them either. And all while you still mad, they done went back and they like, oh, but I just love them so much. Oh my God. Like, no. Set your boundaries. Set those boundaries. Looking after your emotional well-being should always be a priority. And boundary setting plays an important role in self-care. I'm going to say that a little louder for the people in the back. Looking after your emotional well-being should always be a priority, and boundary setting plays an important role in self-care. Not setting boundaries can be detrimental to your mental health. I'm just saying. When dealing with people who repeatedly violate your boundaries, it says, unfortunately, people who are manipulative, narcissistic, or have a poor sense of self tend to repeatedly violate personal boundaries. One of the biggest challenges that people have with boundaries is figuring out what to do when someone repeatedly violates them. There isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to the question. When you have someone that is consistently violating your boundaries, first question is, who is the person that is consistently violating your boundaries? Who is it? Is it a family member? Is it a parent, a cousin, a friend, a coworker, a child? The nature, power differential, and closeness of the relationship make a difference. Your response to your mother will be different than your response to your boss, which will be different yet from your response to your neighbor. The next question is the boundary violator willing to change? If they're willing to work with you after a conversation of stating, hey, when you say certain things, it makes me feel this way. If that person is willing to say, you know what? I didn't know that I made you feel this way when I said this. Or it was never my intention to hurt you when I say these things. Or when I make these jokes. It was never my intention to hurt you. And if I did, I apologize. What can we do to move forward? That's something you need to evaluate. That's a person that is willing to, Bobby says, at the end of the day, you must protect your peace. You absolutely have to. It's all about protecting your peace. Setting boundaries in place is to make sure that at the end of the day, you are ensuring the protection of your mental health, your emotional health, sometimes your physical health. Stress is a killer. We allow people to stress us out. It can kill us. It can. But if a boundary violator is willing to change, then it's okay to give that person another chance. Now, however, if you give them that chance and they show you that they ain't really trying to change, they gonna hear about their business. They gonna hear about their business. The next question to ask is, how long has this been going on? Longer behavior patterns are harder to change, but certainly possible when someone is motivated. If you've allowed someone to consistently disrespect you and consistently treat you like garbage and consistently cross your boundary lines and you've never said anything, that makes it harder for that person to acknowledge that they need to change something or even want to be willing to change something. But if you're willing to say, hey, look, I've had enough. This is not something I'm going to continue to do. If you choose to continue to be in a friendship or be in a relationship with me, this is going to have to change. This is going to have to stop. The motivation behind that is that if they want to consistently be in your life, they are going to change whatever it is that they're doing or saying to hurt you. Now, however, on the other side, however, if they choose not to, guess what? Move along, let them go. Stop trying to hold on to folks that you need to let go. Okay? All right. The next question is, has the boundary violator been physically aggressive? Safety is paramount. Hey, Zelma. Hello, darling. If the person violating your boundaries has been violent or threatened violence, you need to proceed with caution. I highly recommend getting help from supportive people, professionals, and or law enforcement. Now, this question here is a hard question because it's not always easy to leave. It's not. If you've never been in a situation, if you've never been in a physically violent situation or domestic violence situation, don't judge those who have. And I mean that wholeheartedly. In all transparency, it's not easy to leave because sometimes leaving can cost a person their life. Not everyone has someone that is willing to help them get away. Not always do they have someone that they can run to or a place that they can run to. So please understand, when people are in those situations, don't be so quick to judge, to say, well, I don't know why they staying. Oh, if he beating her like that, she need to leave or he needs to leave. Because please understand, men are abused too. They are. Society just tells you to look at it differently, which you shouldn't. But regardless of whether it's a man or a woman that is being abused, do not judge them for the situations that they are in. Because it may be a situation where they grew up knowing or seeing the people in which were in charge of raising them fighting, arguing, cussing each other out. That may be what they grew up with. So growing up with the thought of they don't love me unless they put their hands on me, or I don't love them unless I'm putting my hands on them. So please do not judge a person for being in a domestic violence situation or a physically violent situation and not leaving. Because unless you have a conversation with that person, you do not know the reasons in which they are staying. Just had to put that PSA out there. Zelma says that is so important. It is, because not everybody has some place they can go to. So if you feel that you are in a situation in which you need help to get out of, please, by all means, reach out if you can to someone. If not, there are hints, there are clues that you can give if you suspect someone is in a domestic violence situation or a physically violent situation. Because here's the thing, all domestic violence situations are not always physical. Sometimes it can be emotional. Sometimes it can be financial. If you suspect that, please approach that situation with caution. Please allow someone on the outside that is specialized in that area to help. Please do that. Because being safe is the most important thing. So again, approach that situation with caution, and please don't judge, because you never know why. You never know a person's story or why they stay. So there's that PSA. The next question to ask is, are you a minor? Or is the other person a minor? It says, if you're a child, you must ask an adult for help. Reach out to an adult at school or church, a friend, parent, or a hotline. You do not need to figure this out alone. So that's, even though we don't have any kids on here, that's still, I wanted to put that out there. The next one is, are you truly setting clear, consistent boundaries? In my experience, people tend to overestimate the strength of their boundaries. It's understandable that sometimes you back down, feel tired, overwhelmed, or scared, and don't follow through with your boundaries. Just like setting rules with children, boundaries don't work when they are only enforced some of the time. Again, the key word is consistency. You must be consistent with your boundaries, and you must be consistent across the board. Boundaries need to be especially clear and consistent when you're dealing with someone who doesn't respect you. I'm going to read that part again. Boundaries need to be clear and consistent when dealing with someone who does not respect you. Such a person is looking for holes in your boundaries and using them against you. So be sure you assertively and clearly telling that person that this behavior is not okay, and follow through with your consequences. Here's the thing. If you tell a person what you will not tolerate, instead of telling a person what they will and will not do, tell a person what you will and will not tolerate and what you will and will not do. Clear-cut boundaries, and you must be consistent and clear. Clear and consistent. If you tell a person and your boundaries, I'm not going to argue with you, then don't argue with anybody. Nobody. Because here's the thing. People who don't respect you will try to pull you out your body and your character every chance that they get. If they know that certain things will cause you to lose your mind and pop out, then those are the things that they will do. If they know that they can poke the bear a certain way, they're going to keep poking. They're going to keep poking. Because again, they look for holes in your boundaries. When you're not consistent in the boundaries in which you give, a person doesn't take you serious, especially if they already don't respect you. Just saying. It's important. It's important. There are common trouble spots in setting boundaries. I say these things not to make you feel ashamed or bad about yourself and boundaries that are inconsistent. My hope is that you gain more awareness of the things that you can control. Because at the end of the day, you cannot control other people. But what you can control is your behavior and your reaction to other people. That's what you can control. So why not control the things in which you can, instead of worrying about the things that you cannot control, which are other people and their behavior. You can't control what come out of other people's mouths, but you can certainly control how you respond to it. Growing up, I was told it's not what people call you, it's what you respond to. So if you know you're not stupid, why you responding to it? If you know you're not ugly, why you responding to it? For what? To give them the reaction in which they want? The reaction in which they're trying to provoke you to make? It's like, I'll give you an example. Do you remember in school, it was always that one person trying to get you in trouble when you was in school? Like they would say something, whisper something to you, and you were like, stop talking to me. Shut up. Who was the one that got in trouble? You were. And you were like, well, they was talking to me. And the teacher be like, you're the one who's hollering. And the person be sitting there like, because they got the reaction out of you that they wanted. They wanted you to get in trouble. So they did what they needed to do to get you in trouble. It's the same premise. It's the same thing as adults. People do things to provoke you. So that way, when you react the way they want you to, you're the one that looks like an idiot. You're the one that looks crazy. Like they can walk past and mumble something. And instead of just go ahead, let them go on about their way because they trying to get you to turn around and be like, what you say? Say what you say a little louder. I say it so everybody can hear. Now you're looking crazy because they like, who is they talking to? Like, who said something? And of course, the person who says something is not going to jump up and be like, I said something, me. They're not going to jump up and say something. You're going to be the one that's out here looking crazy. And they just going to be like, what are they talking to? Don't allow people who throw rocks and hide their hands to make you be the one that gets out your body and reacts all crazy and be the one everybody's staring at. It's the exact same premise. It's just we're adults and not classroom kids. That's it. Set your boundaries. Be clear about them. Be consistent with them. Setting boundaries is not as hard as people think it is. A lot of times we overthink setting those boundaries. It doesn't have to be these giant things that you think of. Boundary setting can be something so simple. So simple. Set a boundary with your kids. You can't come in my house past a certain time. Okay. They come in your house past a certain time. The first time you get a warning. In my house, you get a warning. The second time you come in my house or you attempt to come in my house after a certain time, my doors are locked. I'm not getting out of my bed to let you in. No, ma'am, no ham, no spam, no thank you, Miss Shirley. I hear you calling my phone. I hear you ringing the doorbell. I hear you knocking. Be consistent with your consequences. You can't be wishy-washy with your boundaries and expect people to honor them and respect them. You can't. I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ways I want you to write down real quick on what to do when someone continues to violate your boundaries. 6 things real quick. The first one is continue to set strong and consistent boundaries. I know this is obvious and redundant, of course. However, this is the part that you control. You don't control how people respond, and you can't force people to respect your boundaries. Second, write it down. Record the boundary violations and your responses. This will help you check for weak spots in your boundaries. If you notice that you aren't consistently setting healthy boundaries, make adjustments. And if you're being very consistent, writing it down will help you decide if you can accept these violations. Again, that goes back to whether or not you're going to continue to allow this person to overstep your boundaries. Why are you allowing this person to overstep your boundaries? And how much longer are you going to tolerate it? The third one is be clear with yourself about what treatment you'll accept and what you won't. Keyword is clear. People who have a tendency to set boundaries in their mind and then allow it to be pushed back and pushed back. For example, I knew a woman who years prior had told herself that she wouldn't tolerate her husband coming home drunk and cursing at her anymore. By the time I met her, her husband was coming home drunk several times per week, regularly cussing at her in front of her children, and he'd even slapped her once. This is far beyond what she thought she'd put up with. It helps to write down your boundary and say it out loud to a supportive person who will help you stay true to it. If you need help enforcing your boundaries, enlist the help of a friend. I mean a real friend. I don't mean like that sometime associate. That ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like your BFF that you spill and tell everything to. Enlist the help of a friend to help you to enforce and be consistent with your boundaries, like an accountability partner. Okay? And that's to be able to hold yourself accountable to what you say you are going to tolerate and what you're not. Again, consistency. The fourth one is accept that some people will not respect your boundaries no matter what you do. This is a difficult truth to accept because we like to be able to force people to respect our boundaries. I know it's disappointing to realize that you may have to make a hard decision about whether you want to continue to have a relationship or a friendship with this person who doesn't respect your boundaries. But you can't change someone else's behavior. You can choose to accept it or you can choose to disengage. If you have a friend that you know consistently, if you continue to tell this person that you don't like to be talked to in a certain manner and you don't like to be called certain things, and they continue to call you these things over and over and over again, how much of a friend are they truly? And you need to take a look at whether or not, or not even whether or not, you need to take a look at why you allow this person to keep doing this. Why do you consistently allow this person to be around you, or why do you consistently be around that person? Another mirror, self-looking in the mirror, taking these hard looks in the mirror, asking yourself these questions. The next one is detach from the outcome. One way to detach from a narcissist person is to stop responding in the same old ways. Some people intentionally violate boundaries to hurt you, get a reaction out of you, and to exert control. We talked about that. Don't engage in the same old arguments with these people. Why are you arguing with them? I'm not going to argue. If you raise your voice at me, I'm done. The minute they raise their voice, be done. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. You're not going to call me out of my name, or I will not continue this conversation. The minute they call you out your name, be done. Set it, stand on it, enact the consequences. Just that clear. Just that clear. Bobby says, in most cases, some people are afraid to stand up for themselves. Very true. And that goes back to the self-esteem, to the self-love. That is a part of it. Some people have to, when it comes to setting boundaries, have to do that work on self-love and that self-esteem. Some people don't have that self-motivation to be able to say, because for so long they've allowed people to mistreat them, disrespect them, that they've been beat down for so long that they don't know how to stand up for themselves. I was one of those people who's had really low self-esteem and allowed people to do whatever they wanted to, was talk to me any kind of way. And I was like, oh, well, I'm sure they don't mean it. Like it got to a point where even my kids would notice. Like, okay, mom, like enough is enough. Like, when you gonna tell this person no? Like, mom, why you keep doing for this person? They ain't never there when you need them. You always there for them. You always doing for them. But when you need somebody, they never around. It was because I didn't have enough self-esteem and I didn't have enough self-love or self-respect to tell somebody no, and this is not how you gonna treat me. But baby, when I got it, honey, let me tell you. High self-esteem is a hell of a drug. Okay. Now I be like, can you? No. Will you? No. Can I? No. And don't feel bad about using the word no. Honey, no. But you have to get to that point when you're able to do that. So some people have to take that hard look in the mirror and ask some of these hard questions about, what is it about me that I feel that I am not worthy of respect or worthy of someone treating me like I matter? Some of us have to do that work, that inner work on self. And by doing that inner work on self, and it helps us to build up to be able to set healthy boundaries and be able to be consistent with them. And that's why sometimes we need accountability partners to hold us accountable, to be able to say, hey, I thought you said you weren't going to take that. Well, no, it's not well. What made you decide that you were going to tolerate it today, and what made you decide you was going to tolerate it from that person? Sometimes we need that accountability partner that truly has your back. Just saying. Detaching, when you detach from, the outcome of that person, and you don't engage with the tomfoolery in which they're trying to put you in, it says you can choose to ignore or laugh off their comments and not show them that it hurts you. And it shifts the power. This does not apply to someone physically harming you. Please understand that. But when someone says things to hurt you intentionally, if you do not acknowledge that person or what was said, you no longer give them the power to hurt you. Because they're realizing in shifting the power from them to yourself and taking that power from them. Again, no one has the power to do anything to you or make you feel any type of way unless you give them that power. No one can hurt your feelings unless you give them that power. No one can make you hurt unless you give them the power to hurt you, or to make you angry, or to make you sad. Same thing with happy. Nobody can make you happy unless you give them the power. Like nobody can take your happiness and nobody can give you happiness. Happiness is something you have to find within yourself. You have to find it within yourself. Make yourself happy. Don't allow it to be based upon someone else, because when you allow it to be based upon somebody else, when they leave and they take that happiness with them, then what? Then what? It's the same as being whole. You need to be whole before you're in a relationship, because if you're not, and you're two halves coming together to make one whole, when that person leaves, they take their half with them. And guess what? Are you not whole anymore? Girl, what? Boy, what? No. Be whole by yourself. The next one is decide to limit or cut off all contact. Now, if Great Uncle Johnny makes you feel uncomfortable by standing too close or making sexually charged comments, you can decide not to attend family gatherings at his house, or to attend but not be alone with him, or avoid seeing him ever again. You have choices. You don't have to allow people to continue to mistreat you. You don't have to be in their presence. You don't have to allow them to be in your presence. You don't have to interact with these people, especially people who put you in positions that make you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to subject yourself to that situation or those feelings. Lisa said, okay, teach, don't preach now. So listen, those are just some of the things in which, when it comes to people consistently violating your boundaries, you have to look within yourself and make a choice to decide, am I going to continue to allow this person to disrespect me and treat me the way that they are? Am I going to cut them off completely? Am I going to detach? Am I going to disengage? How do I proceed with this? You need to figure out who they are to you in your life. Is that relationship important to you? Is this person willing to change their behavior or the things in which they are saying to you or about you? Those are some of the things in which you need to consider. And then you need to consider that the only person and the only thing that you can control is yourself, your behavior, and your responses. You can't control anybody else's. Now, however, there are special challenges when you special challenges when dealing with repeat boundary violators. Now, however, should you live with the person that is consistently violating your boundaries? It says, let's imagine that you're living with Great Uncle Johnny while you go to school in San Francisco, and there's no possible way you can afford to move out. You might identify these choices. Quit school and move back home. Stay out of the house as much as possible. Study at the library and coffee shop. Come home late and leave early. Or ask various friends if you can spend the weekends with them, get a second job, save money so you can move out. None of these choices seem ideal, but you trust your instincts and do what's best for you. So when you live with the person that's consistently violating your boundaries, that's what you consider a special circumstance. And in those instances, you really have to just kind of go with your gut and do what you feel is best for you in that situation. If that means you got to get your hustle on and save your coin so you can get out that house, then you need to get your hustle on, save your coin, and so you can vamonos. Vamonos. The next one is the boundary violator is in a position of authority. Oh, Lord, come on now. This is perhaps the hardest situation of all. Yes, it is. It can be scary and dangerous when a parent, teacher, boss, law enforcement officer, or anyone authority is violating your boundaries. Please consider whether it would help to get someone else involved, perhaps this person's supervisor. I'm going to say that if you're in a situation in which you feel unsafe, in a law enforcement situation where you are pulled over, calmly ask for a white shirt. That's all I'm going to say. Just calmly ask for a white shirt. I realize that life is complicated and sometimes doing so can make things worse, particularly in the short term. You, again, need to make some difficult decisions about whether you can stay away from this person, limit contact, or avoid being alone with them altogether. The next one is others pressure you to stay or minimize your feelings or the harm you've experienced. Woo! When you decide that you need to make a change to a relationship due to boundary violations, not everyone will be supportive. Now, we all have those family members that feel like, oh, well, they still a good person and they taking care of you. And why would you leave that? Like, okay, so he get mad and he may drink a lot or she might drink a lot, but they take care of you. And why you going to leave that? Tell them to kiss your wrist where it twists, okay? And mind their business. It's not about you making somebody else happy. I'm just saying. This is not the time to be a people pleaser. It is not healthy to stay in contact with someone who causes you harm in order to make someone else happy. I'm just saying. Don't continue living at Great Uncle Johnny's because your dad says you're overreacting and that's just how Johnny is. Maybe your dad has a perfectly respectful and pleasant relationship with him. Or maybe he's oblivious to how he treats you. There are infinite reasons for your dad to say this, but the point is, it don't matter. If you are uncomfortable, you need to honor that. Don't be afraid to do what's best for you because of how it makes someone else feel. They don't matter when it comes to you taking care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, your financial health. It doesn't matter. When you're making the best choice possible for yourself, it don't matter how nobody else feel or what nobody else think. Do whatever is best for you. Ooh, the next one is you love and care about the boundary violator. Ooh, how many times do we see this? How many times? Often the boundary violator is a parent, or a spouse, or someone else you care about. Obviously, it's much easier to detach or walk away from someone you don't love deeply. Oh, baby. It's actually not healthy to love anyone else more than you love yourself. We're going to say that again. It's actually not healthy to love anyone else more than you love yourself. Setting boundaries is a form of self-love and self-respect. If you don't love and respect yourself, others won't either. Keyword, others won't either. You can ask your loved ones to engage in the process of change with you, such as family counseling, going to a support group, or reading a book about boundaries. If they refuse or don't follow through, they're telling you that they don't intend on changing. You are once again faced with needing to decide if it's healthy for you to continue the relationship as is or with modifications, or if it's healthy for you to continue it at all. I had a client who loved his aging mother, but she was verbally abusive and intrusive with her questions. She criticized everything her son did to help her. He couldn't bear to cut her out of his life, but he was miserable before, during and after each visit. His way of dealing was to hire someone with her day-to-day care and limit his visits to once a week. However, whenever his mother began to criticize, he told her she was being critical and hurtful and cut the visit short. This was the best solution he could come up with. When dealing with people that you love does not mean that they have the right to disrespect you or mistreat you. You have the right to set boundaries, to limit your time with that person, or cut them off altogether. It doesn't matter. You have the right to choose you, and that's what matters. Dealing with someone who repeatedly violates your boundaries is about identifying your choices, choosing the best option, even when none of them are ideal, respecting yourself, and trusting your instincts. Unfortunately, there is no easy answer. Setting boundaries sometimes means others will be angry or offended by your choices, and sometimes you cannot continue to have them in your life. When you set your boundaries, you should always have you in mind. You should always have you and your best. No one has your best interest in heart like you do. When you set boundaries, you are showing others how they need to treat you and what your expectations are of them and how to treat you. Be consistent in setting your boundaries. Set boundaries and be consistent in the consequences of those boundaries. Do a self-evaluation and determine what area is it that you're either not setting boundaries, that you're afraid to set boundaries in. And if there are areas of your life in which you're afraid to set boundaries, look at why you're afraid to set boundaries in those areas of your life. Is it because of something you've seen? Is it because of something you've experienced? What is it that makes you afraid to set boundaries in that area of your life? What is it that makes you afraid to set boundaries, period? But whatever you do, take a long, hard look in the mirror at self. And if you know you need to do work on self, it's okay to do that work. Because it's all about self-love, self-esteem, self-worth. Because at the end of the day, you are worthy. You are worthy of being respected. You are worthy of love from someone else. Hell, Mother Ruth said, if you can't love yourself, how the hell you expect somebody else to love you? So take care of self in all things. Learn to put yourself first. It's not an easy task. It's easier said than done. But learn to put yourself first. Take time out for self. In all you're giving, find the limit of how much you're willing to give of yourself before you save some for self. Because people will take as long as you're willing to give. Nobody's going to be like, oh, it's okay. You've given enough. It's okay. Oh, no. You willing to give, they willing to take. They willing to take. Even if it means taking all of you. Self-preservation sometimes. Self-love is a hell of a drug. Self-confidence. That's the difference between arrogance and confidence. There's a difference. But set your boundaries. Set your boundaries. And I promise that in setting your boundaries, you may lose some people along the way. You may lose some friends. And guess what? It's okay. Because if people can't respect your boundaries, and respect you as a person enough to realize, accept, and acknowledge when they've crossed your boundaries, they weren't meant to be in your life anyway, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to choose you over anybody else. And I do mean anybody. We just said you shouldn't love anyone else more than you love yourself, because that can be harmful in itself. I thank you guys for tuning in tonight, because you could have been anywhere, but you was here with me. I thank you guys so much. And in case nobody told you today, you are loved. You are important. You are beautiful. And I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Next week, we will be here every day. Next week, it is our first networking week. We have some amazing businesses and brands for next week. Each day we will be showcasing between 2 to 3 different businesses and brands, and there might be some giveaways. Might have some giveaways. But I am definitely looking forward to all of the people that I have to showcase next week. Again, we will be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 6 p.m. every day next week, because we have so many businesses and brands to showcase. So I'm definitely excited for next week coming up. There will be flyers. I will have the promos out, so you will know who will be on here with businesses and brands. When I tell you we got some of everything on here, I'm talking, we got something for everybody next week. Okay, I'll promise you. We got some amazing people coming through. Some y'all know, some y'all don't. So, we got a few. Let's see. I'll give y'all some hints. We got some counseling services. We got somebody coming through with the wigs and the lashes. We got somebody coming through with purses and designer bags and shoes and belts. We got somebody coming through that does home improvement. We got somebody coming through, that does doula services. For those who's having babies, we got something for y'all. We got somebody coming through with the publishing company and music, and I'm talking, we got when I tell y'all we got something for everybody, and I'm not even gonna give it all away. I'm just giving y'all hints. We got some toys, we got some fitness things going on, we got handmade bracelets. We got some of everything, y'all. I promise you. You are not going to want to miss a day next week with these phenomenal people. You will get to know who they are, what they do, where you can follow them. It is going to be an amazing time, I guarantee you. So make sure that you guys tune in every day next week for networking week, because you never know. You might find what you're looking for. You never know. So you guys have an amazing weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys. Hey, Ann, how are you? So I look forward to seeing you guys Monday evening at 6 p.m. And again, look, let some of that light and that love that's inside of you spill out and ooze upon somebody else, that it may fill up their cup, and they may allow it to ooze out and spill upon somebody else. And if you can, please make sure that you do one random act of kindness, and it will help to make this world a little bit better place. Be the change that you want to see in this world. Okay? I love you guys, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And I will see y'all Monday at 6 p.m. See y'all then. Bye, y'all.